They moved back from 1 all the way to 9, picked up a bounty of picks. What are we going to do here to help Justin Fields, or are we going to help Justin Fields by stopping the other team, which they didn't do very well last year?
Yeah, it's tough because I think there's a lot of holes for the Bears. Obviously, it's why they moved down and got all these picks. Offensive line, corner, running back. Like I'm tempted. The best player on my board is Bijan Robinson left. I think he could be in play for the Bears. But I think if I was the GM, as much as I like Bijan, I think the Bears offense just is not ready for that yet, that commitment at a top 10 running back. So I'm going to take my best offensive lineman left in this draft, and that's Peter Skoronski, the interior offensive lineman from Northwestern. I still think he can play tackle. I think you got to try it. I think there's a chance. He played it 3 years in the Big Ten. Peter Skoronski, very successful at Northwestern against the Ohio States and the Michigans of the world. If I'm the Bears, I draft him. I try him a tackle. Maybe he Rashawn Slater's it. It's great. If not, let's kick him inside. Let's get the best 5 players on the field. I'm not sure. I think they would probably take Broderick Jones in the circumstance. I think they want that length, but I think Skoronski is just so good. It's a slam dunk, easy pick.
2 things with this. One, they wouldn't have to pay a lot of moving expenses, as they just bring him right across town.
Look, we got Georgia going, Nolan Smith to Atlanta, Peter Skoronski to Chicago. We're just keeping people.
But you brought up something there, and I think it's a subject to talk about, is with a tackle that has the shorter arms, or the offensive line that has shorter arms like Skoronski, and we moved him to interior offensive line on our board. But is with someone with his skill set, do you think it is something that where you would like show us that you can't do it before we make the move inside?
I think it would depend on where my situation is. And I think if you're a team like the Bears, they drafted 2 linemen last year that ended up playing well. Braxton Jones at left tackle and Tevin Jenkins at right tackle. Honestly, if it was me and I made this selection, I would kick Tevin Jenkins inside, and I would have Peter Skoronski play right tackle, where the arm length may not matter quite as much, a smidgen less. And I think I'm getting, my best 5 linemen on the field, and I think that's the most important piece. That'd be my thought. I think it's going to depend on team situation, how the tackles look, but I hope Skoronski gets a shot at tackle.
I know you were a big fan of Braxton Jones last year. I don't think you thought he would play that well.
No, I think he's a nice developmental tackle. I think he's going to be good.
All right, so that brings us to the Philadelphia Eagles here, who picking with the New Orleans Saints spot here, and there's not a lot of holes on this team. There's not. As a matter of fact, they're outside of one player who I'm not going to draft here. I don't think that there is a player that they're going to draft that's going to play immediately, like as a starter. I just don't think they're outside of Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas, who would immediately play. But that's not who I'm going to draft here. Because if I am the GM, Shane,
you're not taking a running back.
I must stick to my creed and not draft a running back in the first round. So I know they just re-signed Bradbury and they redid Darius Slay's deal to keep him, but I feel like those are temporary fixes, perhaps. And so let's get Devin Witherspoon, the corner from Illinois, here as a number 3 corner on the roster. If injury befalls one of the 2 guys there, or maybe he just ends up being better than Slay, I think they're both over 30 or right at 30 right now. So they're on the downside of the bad age anyway. Let's get Devin Witherspoon in here on the roster. We've got him for 5 years. We'll see what happens.
I think it's a good pick. I think it's a pick they might make at 10 if he's sitting there. I think it is a good fit. We saw last year. They drafted for next year, right? Jordan Davis, I think, was the big pick, where they knew Javon Hargrave wasn't going to stick around and they were going to have to play him in a year, and that was the plan. Nakobe Dean, I think same thing. They knew they're going to lose some linebackers. I think Devin Witherspoon would be the same way. He's probably not going to play a ton this year, but next year he's a starter. He's plugged in. I think it's kind of the Howie Russman way, so I could see it.
All right, Shane, you're up now. Pick 11 with the Tennessee Titans. Curious to see where this goes.
I'm torn, and I'm torn between two players I don't think they're going to draft for Tennessee. I don't think either of these players are actually going to go 11, but how I would go at 11. I think it's offense. I think they need offense ultimately. I think Bijan Robinson would be in play if I was the GM here. Like, I think Derrick Henry has been out there on the trading block. It's been the centerpiece of this offense. It's how they've won games. Like, let's replace him with the stud running back. I don't know if I can do it while Henry's still on the roster. Broderick Jones makes a lot of sense. I think they might take him, but I have an offensive player rated higher than him that I think should be a top 10 pick. Won't be a top 10 pick. And I think the Titans desperately could use another elite weapon. So I'm going to take Jackson Smith-Njigba, the wide receiver out of The Ohio State University. Play him in the slot. You have Treylon Burks on the outside. Malik Willis looked pretty bad. And I'm not considering Anthony Richardson or Will Levis at this spot. I think if I'm the Titans, I look at quarterback later. But I think JSN gives them an option. Now, if you go quarterback in a year, you have some weapons to really work with that are really good. I think JSN is an elite receiver prospect. And if you hadn't hurt that hamstring, we'd be talking about him, going in the top 5.
That hurt because I was ready to put JSN with Bryce Young.
Look.
And I love Quentin Johnston from TCU. He's wide receiver 1 for me. I just don't feel like the value is there to make this pick at 12. So I'm going to circle back here, and we talked earlier, could Houston bypass quarterback at 2 and go with a pass rusher, which at that point would have been Will Anderson. So while he's fell down a little bit, I feel like the time is right now for Houston to add that pass rusher since we can't get the wide receiver that we wanted. And they'll go with Tyree Wilson, the edge from Texas Tech here.
So, once again, I feel like I need to reiterate that this is us being the GMs here, because I do think Tyree Wilson will go earlier than this.
Yes.
I think this is probably the absolute floor though. If Houston goes quarterback at 2, and but it shows you, we're both lower on Tyree Wilson, so he's going to fall a little bit in this draft, and it feels weird to do, but I think it's a good pick here. I think it's a better pick here than at 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think so too. Somebody was in our Discord chat. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name a few weeks ago, but they said that talking about Tyree Wilson, he's an older, I think he's like 23 and with a bad foot, gonna pass on that in the top 5 or whatever it was. So yeah, very, very, very possible there. All right, Shane, the still Aaron Rodgers-less New York Jets on the clock here at pick 13. Are we going to add a weapon for our ghost quarterback here?
I feel like we got enough of those after we had to sign every wide receiver that's ever played with Aaron Rodgers. Is really just Alan Lazard.
Somebody said Aaron Rodgers always complained about needed more weapons in Green Bay, yet advocates for bringing all the same weapons he had in Green Bay to the Jets. Make that make sense.
Look, he's just got to get his friends paid and make sure everything happens. They signed Mecole Hardman as well. I think they're in good shape weapons-wise. I mean, what they're really going to have to do is protect Aaron Rodgers. Outside of drafting Bijan Robinson, which they have Breece Hall is coming back from injury, but he's very good. The best player on my board right now is Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle from Georgia. I think it would be a slam dunk selection for the Jets if he's there at 13. I think this could be a pick that happens. He can play left tackle. I think he could play right tackle, or you move on from Mekhi Becton and go with that. I think Broderick Jones is an excellent player. Didn't allow a sack. I'm in.
Broderick Jones, offensive tackle 1 for me on my board right now, ahead of Paris Johnson, who I actually had going.
Yeah, I was going to say, why don't you take Paris Johnson at 4 if Broderick Jones is higher, Mr. GM?
Hunch. The GM had a hunch.
GM's feeling good.
At pick 4. All right, so that brings us to the New England Patriots, who I think we can both agree, historically, the hardest team to mock for. And it feels wide receiver should be in play here just based off their current depth chart of wide receivers. I was not high on Tyquan Thornton, the player they drafted in the second round last year. They've only tried a wide receiver once in the first round. That was N'Keal Harry. Didn't really work out. They signed Juju Smith-Schuster. He's not great. Devontae Parker's not great. Kendrick Bourne, not great. Let's get great. Let's draft wide receiver 1 here on my board and give me the big physical athlete, Quentin Johnston, wide receiver from TCU to New England. Again, they're not going to draft, probably not going to draft a wide receiver, but they should.
Look, they might. They do really need one. We'll see what happens, but I feel better about you drafting receiver than Bill Belichick, which is saying something.
Feeling better about me drafting anybody over anybody is saying something. All right, Shane, you're now on the board for the Aaron Rodgers less, we think, Green Bay Packers. Sure, we've got a couple of fellow draft countdown contributors or fellow and future draft countdown contributors anxiously awaiting who you go with here at pick 15.
So I think this is a spot where I'm going to take a player that gets mocked to them, but is not who I think they'll take. I think Green Bay is a team that has a philosophy in terms of drafting. Will draft the pass rusher in some of these premium positions, even before receiver. We've seen that over the past couple of years. It's been a running joke. Once again, the highest player on my board is Bijan Robinson. I don't think I would take him if I was the Packers. So I'm going to take Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame. I think he's better than where he's going to end up going in the draft. I don't think he'll be a top 15 pick. I think he should be a top 15 pick. And I think it's a nice way to improve their blocking if they have more O-line injuries and get a weapon for Jordan Love. I like doing both those things at the same time.
I like it. I like the fit there. You're Robert Tonyan. Did he sign? Has he signed with anybody yet?
I think he signed with the Bears, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't remember.
Yes, for the Chicago Bears.
I would have considered Michael Mayer here with the next pick, which is me now picking for the Washington Commanders at pick 16, as we anxiously await who's going to buy that team from Daniel Snyder. Report out today it will not be Jeff Bezos, the Amazon founder. So, but I would have considered Michael Mayer here. They already have Logan Thomas, but Logan Thomas can't stay healthy. So could have been a place to upgrade there. I think another place to upgrade is the safety position for the Commanders here. It is a spot I could also have seen Green Bay go with Brian Branch, that last pick. So that's who I'm going to go with here for Washington. The Alabama safety / nickel corner, Brian Branch, will add some versatility to the Commanders defense.
Do you think there's a chance if he's there that they take him here at 16? In reality,
I really do. I mean, I don't know much about Derek Forrest, who's currently their projected starting free safety, nor their projected starting nickel corner, Danny Johnson. I would be bereft of saying I'm a big follower of Commanders football, but Forrest played at Cincinnati. I have that correct. I'm not making that up. So I feel like Brian Branch is an upgrade over either spot there. So I feel like this is definitely a position that could be in play. Your man Bijan could also be in play here. Not ruling that out either.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Brian Robinson played pretty well last year, so
He did,
I think it's possible.
did he play better than Bijan Robinson would?
No, gosh, no. Yeah, for Bijan, man, he should be gone by now. Yeah, I think the Commanders pick is going to be a linchpin pick for the second half of this draft, being the literal halfway point. I guess that makes sense. But I think Branch, Darnell Wright, corner, tight end.
Let's also not rule out that they could be a splashy team to make that big trade. I mean, I know they're saying all the right things about Sam Howell. They signed Jacoby Brissett. Let's not rule out them making the big splash into the top 10 to get the quarterback either.
Could be. And we still have Anthony Richardson and Will Levis on the board because we don't like them very much. So.
Nino's going to watch this and just cry himself to sleep.
He's going to be mad.
Let's move on to your team, Shane, the Pittsburgh Steelers at pick 17. How has the board fallen? I think you would have loved the three corners.